So I like to start with a story. I always do. And I've told you before that a lot of times my stories, I never let the facts get in the way of a good story, right? However, in this story, it's not as an elaborate story, but it's absolutely 100% true. Everything I'm going to say about this story is 100% true, I promise. So I represented a couple, a young couple. I sold them a condo 1 year. And excuse me, by the way, I have a cold, so I'm a little bit nasally here. But I sold them a condo, and a few years later, they decided to sell the condo and move up and buy a home, in which they did out in Robinson Ranch, which backs to the Cleveland National Forest. Loved the home, was really excited about it, and the story starts at inspection day. So we're at the third-party inspection. The inspector's there. They come early, and they're doing their measurement, and I brought some more work to do, and I'm there. And the inspector's going about his inspection, and a couple hours later, he says, I'm almost done. I just need to go up in the attic and take a look, and I'll be down in a few minutes. So that's okay. About 2 minutes later, we hear this, oh my God! I mean, like, really loud. And we're thinking, oh, what happened? Did he fall or something? So we literally all run to the base of where the attic is, and he's coming down the stairs, or the ladder there, and he said, you're not going to believe there's this huge snake up there. This big snake, like so big that this snake like owns this house. And so we're kind of like, you know, like, and it's like scary, right? And so the best comment came out of my buyers, the young gal, who said, oh, are we going to have to negotiate the inspection with the snake or with the seller? And so that's a true story. She said that. So we called animal control. They came out. They got the snake. It's a gopher snake. Okay, now gopher snakes,
Wow, it's beautiful.
they get really big, but they're not dangerous at all. Like as soon as the animal control went up there, they didn't even take their rod. They just like took it, wrapped it around, and said, come on down, and then they put it in their little truck and they relocated it. Okay. So that's the story, and I think that true story. No, I didn't alter any of the facts, huh?
How big was the snake?
I don't know. It was big, way bigger than that. It was scary big. Once we knew, when they came down with it, this is a gopher snake. Don't worry about it. You know, want to touch it and play with it. Nobody wanted to really do that. But so that's the story. But here's the thing. No matter how good a house looks, you never know what's hiding above, below, or behind the walls. And so that's why we do home inspections. You're not buying a home. You're buying whatever comes with it. Okay. So that's the story. So I've got a question for you. Let me go back here. So who knows what the most expensive words in real estate are? Any idea?
Say it again. What's the most expensive?
Most expensive?
Words.
Well, here it is. We decided to skip the home inspection.
Oh.
Okay. So obviously there's a reason we do home inspections. Now most of us as realtors, we always think that the home is sold as soon as the RPA, the residential purchase agreement, is signed and delivered, that we're sold, right? But that's not really the truth. The truth is we have at least 2 and maybe 3 negotiations. So the first one is all the terms on the offer itself, and the second one is the inspection itself. Now, occasionally there's a third one. What can the third one be occasionally?
The repairs.
No, that's okay.
Oh, that's part of the inspection.
Yeah, RPA, repairs. What's the third one? Appraisal. Okay. Now, today appraisals usually almost always come in. About 95% of them come in, and when they don't, a lot of times the buyer has enough money, it doesn't matter. But that's the potential one. But the one that is the most crucial, and the one that I see realtors that are the weakest in by far, would be how to negotiate repairs. Okay. So today we're going to do a deep dive. We're going to unpack a lot of stuff, and I think hopefully you'll look at things a little bit differently when we're done with this today. Okay, so normally on inspection, we come up with anywhere between 5 and 50 items, right? That would show the actionable items, as we call them. The seller doesn't want to fix anything, okay? And the buyer wants everything fixed, right? Everything fixed. So that's, we have to navigate that. We have to navigate that. And a lot of it has to do with the ground that we lay before we even start inspections, but we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to show you how to seemingly impossible task of negotiating this. That's something that we can do really well. And here's the thing, when you do this really well, you impress your clients. And so this is an opportunity to impress your clients. And I'm always looking for areas that we can impress our clients. I always said, people on my team have heard this before, when somebody calls you with a problem, don't say, oh no, we got a problem. Say, this is my time to impress them. So that's the way I look at that. So, okay, here's our agenda today, kind of simple, just spend a second on this. Why inspections matter, okay? What does the RPA say about inspections? Very interesting what it says, by the way. Key negotiations of repair requests. How to handle inspection day if you represent the seller, and how to represent inspection day if you represent the buyer. And then what repair requests are reasonable. Later today I'm going to do a handout that literally itemizes everything I think is reasonable. I put this together through me and through AI and everything I come together. The list that AI gave me I had to do a little mending on, but I think it's a pretty good list. But there is no absolute list. It's not like this is the list that comes down from Department of Real Estate and here's what they're going to do and here's what they're not going to do. So each and every inspection, we're basically navigating new waters, okay? But I'll show you how to do that. So we'll talk about negotiating the repair request, and then the final walkthrough, which I think is one of the things that most realtors miss a lot, how to do it. So, okay, why do inspections matter? Who do inspections benefit? Who do you guys think they benefit? The buyer? The seller?
I think
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah, everyone. So I think they're good because they represent the seller, okay, because items that they did not identify in their disclosures, their AVID, the TDS, and the SPQ. By the way, we're throwing out a lot of initials for new people here. Don't worry, you'll learn them all later. They're just all acronyms, but at some days, eventually you would know what we're talking about. But all of these things will be identified, and that takes the burden off the seller to be extra vigilant because we have inspections. For the buyers, it's obvious because you want to look at things that could cost a lot of money down the road, okay? And you want to negotiate that up front, and you want to make a final decision on this house based on those inspections. Anybody here not lost an escrow because of inspections? They've never lost one because of inspections. Okay, yeah, everyone's lost one, right? I mean, some pretty recently. I can look around here and I see 3 or 4 that they've lost them this year. And that's not a bad thing, because it's not our goal to get every deal closed. It's our goal to get the deals closed that should close, okay? So again, and then from an agent point of view, we get to deal with items now instead of later. Seller and buyer, we have a pretty good position before the home closes escrow. After it closes escrow, the seller doesn't want to do anything, the buyer wants everything. And who do they look at? They look at us to solve a problem that sometimes is almost unsolvable. So that's why I say it benefits everybody. Okay, now the RPA, the Residential Purchase Agreement, it actually appears to contradict itself. It really does if you look at it. Because it says, the buyers will take the property as is, okay? It used to say, as is, where is, with all faults, no warranties implied or expressed. They took that out a few years ago. Now they just say as is, okay? So it says as is, that's how they're taking it, okay? But then it goes on to say, but then the buyers can make repair requests. And if the sellers don't agree to them, the buyer can bail. Now, that seems like this massive contradiction, right? And if you look at that, at first look you think, man, how did they mess that up? But actually, I think it's really a magical way they've done this, how they've woven this together, where they make it as is, okay? But they also say, but we do have some remedies for buyers once you do the inspection. And so I think they've done a really good job with how they've done that. And so that's where we're at. The buyer takes it as is, but he has the option to do repairs or do inspections and make repair requests, okay? And of course, if the seller says no and you can't come to an agreement, okay, then you both move on, okay? So, keys to a successful negotiations. So what do you think is the key to negotiating home repairs? What do you think they are? Just kind
Compromise.
of a, huh?
Compromise.
Compromise, okay, that's a good one. What else? That's a good one.
Making sure someone gets something out of the negotiation.
I like
both
it.
sides.
Make sure that everybody wins, win-win, right? That's who, we always want to do win-win negotiations, not win-lose. So that's a good one. Anything else?
Explain to the buyers that the seller's not going to fix everything you want fixed, but do explain to the seller too, listen, if you're not willing to fix this client's gonna walk, but that doesn't mean the next client won't walk too. So it's to your benefit to go ahead and have that fixed.
Exactly, and here's what it's called, setting expectations. So, expectations and setting the expectations is really important. When I see these inspection negotiations fail, it's almost always because basically the expectations were set too high by the agents to the buyer and the seller, okay? And that's not a good thing, it's a bad thing. So it's kind of like the seller wants to fix nothing, right? You bought it as is. The buyer wants the seller to fix everything and then give a $10,000 credit for their kid's college account, right? I mean, that's kind of like how it normally goes, right? And so you have these two things and you're a million miles apart. And so how do you bring them together? So there's an old saying that the war is won before the battle starts, okay? You've probably heard that before. I didn't make that up. But the whole idea, that's really true. It's like the Super Bowl. They say, you know, they have all these Super Bowl talks and everything else. But any coach will tell you, the Super Bowl is won before the game starts based on the preparation. You go out there and execute what you've learned and your game plan and things like that, and that will determine your outcome way more than just how you do it in the field. It's how you're prepared. And so, again, if you want to have these things successful, you need to set expectations. And I want to take a little sidebar right now because I just like this so much. There's a book out there I love to read. I read a lot of books. I used to read even more. And one of the things I do is I like to read books, and then one of the things that I do, and I didn't learn this until about 10 years ago, is that when I have a really good book that I like, super, super good, I will read about 5 books, and about every 6th book that I read is a reread of a book that I loved, okay? So I've got about 6 or 8 books that I absolutely love, and after I read 4 or 5 more books, I go back and read one of those again because they're so good. I've read Happiness Advantage many, many times. This was written by Sean Akers on the bestseller list for many, many years. It's an older book. It's like been out 10 years. Sean Akers used to teach a class at Harvard. It was called Happiness, just simple happiness. The only way you can get the class would be like to be a senior because you need a lot of credits because the class would have 800 students each semester and it would be out immediately. He taught like 3 classes of it. Everybody loved it. It was great. Now, I highly recommend you go read this book, but I'm going to tell you the most important thing I learned from this book right now, and that I've read every single time. And that is that our biggest disappointment in life come from our unmet expectations. So here's what, if you guys get nothing else today, I'm going to, like I said, I'm taking a sidebar from our inspection. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to make you happier this is going to be the most important thing you learn today. That if you lower expectations of others, your life is going to be so much better. Because when your expectations of